I never thought I'd have to choose between my inheritance and my marriage, but my mother-in-law had a way of complicating everything. The day she stormed into my house, waving bank statements and screaming about family loyalty, I knew my carefully laid plans were about to be tested. "Sarah," Linda burst through my front door without knocking, her designer handbag swinging wildly. "We need to talk about your inheritance, now." I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing the latest acquisition reports for Thompson Manufacturing, my late father's company, though Linda didn't know that part yet. "Hello to you too, Linda, please, come in," I said dryly. My mother-in-law hadn't changed much in the 5 years since I married her son David, still perfectly coiffed, still wearing clothes that cost more than most people's monthly salary, still acting like she owned every room she entered. But today, there was something different in her eyes, desperation. "This isn't the time for pleasantries," she snapped, dropping a thick folder on my coffee table. "The family business is in trouble, real trouble." I closed my laptop slowly, careful to keep my expression neutral. "Maxwell Industries?" But David said everything was fine. "Because that's what we told him." Linda collapsed onto my sofa, her usual poise cracking. "We didn't want to worry him. He works so hard as CEO, and with the baby coming." My hand instinctively went to my growing belly, 7 months pregnant, and already Linda was using my unborn child as leverage. "Richard and I have tried everything," she continued, referring to my father-in-law. "We've mortgaged our house, sold our investments, even borrowed from friends, but it's not enough." "How bad is it?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. I'd seen the company's books 3 months ago when I started buying shares through a shell corporation. Linda's hand shook as she opened the folder. "We need $5 million by the end of the month, or we lose everything, the company, the contracts, all of it." She looked up at me, her mascara slightly smudged. "That's why I'm here." "My inheritance," I said flatly. "Yes," she leaned forward eagerly. "Your father left you what, 8 million? More? With that kind of money, we could save Maxwell Industries, keep it in the family." I stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the city. Somewhere out there, in a gleaming office tower, my team was finalizing the paperwork that would give us controlling interest in Maxwell Industries. 3 months of careful planning, all leading to this moment. "The inheritance was 6 million, I corrected her, "and it's not just sitting in a bank account, Linda, it's invested." "Well, uninvest it," she snapped. "This is family we're talking about, your husband's family, the family your child will be born into." I turned to face her, studying the woman who'd never quite accepted me into her precious family circle. When David and I married, she'd made it clear she thought he could have done better than a scholarship girl who'd worked her way through business school. The fact that I'd built a successful consulting career meant nothing to her. I wasn't from the right background, didn't have the right connections. She had no idea that my father had been Michael Thompson, the business mogul who'd built Thompson Manufacturing from the ground up. I'd taken my mother's maiden name after his death, determined to make my own way without his shadow looming over me. Only David knew the truth, and he'd kept my secret, understanding my need for independence. "Linda," I said carefully, "have you considered that maybe the company's problems run deeper than just cash flow?" Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean that throwing money at a problem doesn't always solve it. Sometimes you need new leadership, fresh perspectives." "How dare you?" She shot to her feet. "Maxwell Industries has been in Richard's family for 3 generations. We know how to run our company." "Do you?" I picked up the folder she'd brought, flipping through the papers inside. "Because these numbers tell a different story. Your profit margins have been shrinking for years. You're losing contracts to competitors. Your infrastructure is outdated." "Stop," Linda snatched the papers back. "You have no right to judge us. Just because you have some fancy business degree doesn't mean you understand how things work in the real world." I bit back a laugh. If she only knew how many companies I'd analyzed, bought, and turned around in the past 5 years. I understand enough to know that $5 million won't fix your underlying problems. "So you won't help?" Her voice turned cold. "You'll just let your husband's family legacy die?" "I didn't say that." "Then what are you saying?" She stepped closer, her expensive perfume almost suffocating. "Because from where I'm standing, you have a simple choice. Give us the money and prove you're really part of this family, or don't, and show everyone what we've known all along, that you never belonged here." The thread in her voice was clear. After 5 years of subtle digs and backhanded compliments, she was finally showing her true colors. "You're right, Linda," I said softly. "I do have a choice, but so do you." "What's that supposed to mean?" I walked to my desk and pulled out a business card, not my usual consultant card, but the one I reserved for special occasions. The one with the Thompson Manufacturing logo. Call this number tomorrow at 9 a.m., I said, handing it to her. Ask for Victoria Chen. Tell her you're my mother-in-law. Linda stared at the card. Thompson Manufacturing? The company that's been trying to buy us out? Her face reddened. Is this some kind of joke? No joke. I sat back down at my laptop. Just a different perspective on solving your problems. I don't understand. You will. I opened my email, signaling that our conversation was over. Oh, and Linda? Don't bother calling Richard or David about this. They won't be able to help. She stood there for a moment, clutching the card like it might bite her. If you think you can threaten me. Threats? I looked up, letting a hint of steel enter my voice. I'm offering you a lifeline, Linda. Whether you take it or not is up to you. But remember this conversation tomorrow when you make that call. After she left, I immediately dialed Victoria, my CFO. Linda Maxwell will be calling you tomorrow morning. Make sure all the paperwork is ready. Everything's in place, Victoria assured me. Are you sure you want to do it this way? We could just announce the acquisition formally. I thought about Linda's face when she demanded my inheritance, the years of subtle contempt, the way she'd tried to use my pregnancy as leverage. No, this way is better. Some lessons need to be learned personally. And David? Is he ready? I smiled, thinking of my husband's reaction when I'd told him my plan 3 months ago. Unlike his mother, David had always supported me, always understood why I kept my father's legacy private. He's ready. In fact, he's looking forward to it. It's going to be quite a show, Victoria chuckled. Yes, I agreed, rubbing my belly as the baby kicked. Yes, it is. I spent the rest of the evening reviewing the acquisition documents, making sure everything was perfect for tomorrow's revelation. Linda had no idea that while she'd been trying to strong-arm me into handing over my inheritance, I'd been orchestrating the biggest business deal in Maxwell Industries history. By this time tomorrow, she'd learned that her daughter-in-law wasn't just some scholarship girl who'd gotten lucky. She'd learned that the company she'd looked down on me for not understanding was about to become part of my corporate empire, and most importantly, she'd learned that sometimes the people you underestimate are the ones you should have feared all along. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Mom just called, ranting about you being unreasonable. Should I tell her? Not yet, I replied. Let her sleep on it. Tomorrow soon enough. You're evil, he texted back. I love it. I smiled, thinking about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. Linda wanted me to prove I was part of the family? Well, she was about to find out just what kind of family she'd married her son into. The next morning, I arrived at Thompson Manufacturing's headquarters an hour early. Victoria was already waiting in my office, a stack of documents spread across my desk. Linda called exactly at 9, she reported with a smile. She wasn't happy when I told her to come in for a 2 o'clock meeting. Let me guess, she demanded to know what this was about. Oh yes, she tried pulling the "do you know who I am" card. Victoria chuckled. I simply told her that yes, I knew exactly who she was, and that's why the meeting was mandatory. I settled into my chair, adjusting my blazer over my baby bump. Is everything ready? All set. The board has approved the acquisition. Your father's old conference room is prepared, and security knows to escort Mrs. Maxwell directly there when she arrives. I nodded, picking up a framed photo from my desk, my father and me at my college graduation, both of us beaming. He would have loved this. You know, the drama of it all. Michael always did have a flair for the theatrical, Victoria agreed. She'd worked with my father for 20 years before becoming my CFO. Are you sure you don't want me to handle the meeting? No, I said firmly. Linda needs to hear this from me. The hours ticked by slowly. David texted several times, updating me on his mother's increasingly frantic calls. Apparently, she'd tried reaching Richard too, only to discover he was in a mysterious all-day meeting. What she didn't know was that my father-in-law was actually in our legal department, finalizing the details of his new position in the merged company. At 1:55 p.m., my phone buzzed. Mrs. Maxwell has arrived, security reported. She's being escorted up now. I made my way to the conference room, taking position at the head of the table, my father's old seat. Through the glass walls, I could see Linda being led down the hallway, her expression a mixture of confusion and anger. The door opened, and she stopped dead in her tracks. Sarah? She blinked rapidly, taking in my presence at the head of the table. What are you doing here? Please, sit down, Linda. I gestured to a chair. We have a lot to discuss. I don't understand. I'm supposed to be meeting with Victoria Chen about Maxwell Industries. Yes, you are. I nodded to Victoria, who sat to my right. Victoria, would you please give Mrs. Maxwell the documents? Linda took the folder mechanically, her perfectly manicured hands trembling slightly as she opened it. I watched her face as she read the first page, saw the moment comprehension began to dawn. This is a merger agreement, she said slowly, between Maxwell Industries and, her head snapped up, Thompson Manufacturing? But that would mean, I finished for her, that I'm not just your daughter-in-law, Linda, I'm Sarah Thompson, CEO of Thompson Manufacturing and daughter of Michael Thompson. She fell into a chair, the folder sliding from her grip. No, that's impossible, you're a consultant, a nobody from nowhere who married my son. A consultant who happened to inherit her father's company and business acumen. I leaned forward. The same consultant you came to yesterday, demanding she hand over her inheritance to save your family business. But David never said. Because I asked him not to. I softened my tone slightly. I wanted to make my own way, build my own reputation without trading on my father's name. David understood that. He supported it. David knew? Her voice rose sharply. All this time? Of course he knew. He's my husband, Linda. We don't keep secrets from each other. I let that sink in for a moment. Unlike some families I could mention. The door opened again, and Richard walked in, followed by David. Linda's head whipped around so fast I feared for her neck. Richard, what are you doing here, David? My father-in-law looked tired but relieved. It's done, Sarah, the papers are signed. What papers? Linda demanded. What's going on? The papers finalizing the merger, David explained, moving to stand behind my chair, and Dad's new position as Vice President of Regional Operations. Linda's face went from red to white and back again. You're all in on this? This betrayal? Betrayal? I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. Like hiding the company's financial problems from your own son? Like trying to emotionally blackmail your daughter-in-law into handing over her inheritance? That kind of betrayal? We were trying to protect the company, Linda protested. Our family legacy. And I'm trying to save it. I shot back. If you'd bothered to look at the merger agreement, you'd see that Maxwell Industries isn't being dissolved or stripped for parts. It's being integrated into Thompson Manufacturing, with its name, employees, and core business intact. But under your control, she said bitterly. Yes, I didn't bother to deny it. Under the control of someone who knows how to run a modern manufacturing company, someone who can bring in new contracts, upgrade the infrastructure, and make Maxwell Industries profitable again. Like you know anything about. Mom, David's voice cut through her brewing tirade. Sarah turned Thompson Manufacturing's profits around by 30% in her first year as CEO. She's expanded into 3 new markets and acquired 6 companies. She knows what she's doing. Linda's mouth opened and closed several times before she found her voice again. But what about our family? Our position? Your position as what? I asked quietly. The family that runs a failing company into the ground? The family that hides problems instead of solving them? Or the family that's part of one of the largest manufacturing conglomerates in the region? I pulled out another document and slid it across the table. This is a personal courtesy, Linda. A seat on our charitable foundation's board. Real power to do real good in the community, if you want it. She stared at the paper for a long moment. Why? Because despite everything, you are family. And unlike you, I believe family means more than just business deals and social status. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. I stood up, one hand resting on my belly. But remember this, that grandchild you were so quick to use as leverage yesterday? They're going to grow up learning business from me, so you might want to decide which is more important, your pride or your family. The room fell silent. Linda looked from the document to me, then to David and Richard, her carefully constructed world visibly crumbling around her. Finally, Richard spoke up. Linda, dear, Sarah's offer is more than fair, more than we deserve. Really, I've seen the books, she's right about everything. We need this. We need this? Linda's voice cracked. Or you need this? Did you know about this plan too? I knew we were drowning, Richard said quietly. I knew Sarah was our best hope of saving everything we've built. And yes, I knew about the merger talks. Because unlike you, I was willing to admit we needed help. Linda's shoulders sagged. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked her age. I wanted to protect our family name. The Maxwell name isn't going anywhere, I assured her, but it's time to let someone else take the wheel. She picked up the board position document with shaking hands. And this isn't just a consolation prize? It's an opportunity, I corrected, to do something meaningful. To be part of something bigger than just social status and country club memberships. David moved to his mother's side, placing a hand on her shoulder. Mom, do you remember what you always told me about legacy? That it's not just about what you leave behind, but what you build for the future. She nodded slowly. Well, he continued, Sarah's building something amazing, something our child can be proud of. Both names, Thompson and Maxwell, working together. I watched as Linda's expression shifted, seeing perhaps for the first time the reality of her situation, and the opportunity it presented. The foundation board, what exactly would I be doing? Overseeing charitable initiatives, coordinating with community leaders, making real changes in people's lives. I explained, something tells me you'd be good at it, if you gave it a chance. She was quiet for a long moment, and I could almost see the wheels turning in her head. Finally, she looked up at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time since I'd married her son. All this time, she said softly, I thought you weren't good enough for our family, but it was the other way around, wasn't it? No, I replied, surprising myself with the gentleness in my voice. It was never about being good enough. It was about being honest enough, strong enough to admit when we need help, brave enough to accept change. Linda stood up, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. I'd like to accept the board position, if it's still offered. It is. I held out my hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. Welcome to the family, Linda, the real family. As we shook hands, I felt my baby kick, as if approving the peace treaty. Linda must have seen something in my expression, because she asked, is the baby moving? Would you like to feel? The words were out before I could stop them, but seeing her face light up, I knew they were right. As Linda placed a tentative hand on my belly, feeling her grandchild kick, I caught David's eye. He was grinning, and I could see in his expression the same thing I was thinking. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, but turning them into allies. Epilogue. 3 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Michelle, after my father Michael. Linda was the first person at the hospital after David, bringing not flowers or stuffed animals, but a business proposal for a new foundation initiative focused on supporting working mothers. Maxwell Industries, under the Thompson Manufacturing umbrella, has seen its best quarter in a decade. Richard has thrown himself into his new role with surprising energy, and Linda has become the foundation's most passionate advocate. Yesterday, I overheard her at a charity gala, talking to one of her country club friends, my daughter-in-law. She was saying, is the most remarkable businesswoman I've ever met. We're so fortunate to have her in our family. I didn't let her know I'd heard, but later that night, I added her name to the list of speakers for our next shareholders meeting. After all, family businesses work best when the whole family works together. As for my inheritance, the money Linda had been so desperate to get her hands on, I used it to establish a scholarship fund for young entrepreneurs, because sometimes the best way to build a legacy isn't by holding on to what you have, but by helping others build something of their own. In the end, that's what family business is really about, not just preserving what came before, but building something better for those who come after. And sometimes, the most unexpected allies become the strongest partners in that mission.